Katie, thanks so much for being here. There's a lot to get to today. To start this week, the Cardinals hosted their end of season press conference, and the key words were reset. They're in reset mode right now, and they do have a succession plan in place for President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak. Chaim Bloom will fill in his role after the 2025 season. Katie, what are your takeaways from that press conference?
Well, Tamar, clearly a seismic shift for the St. Louis Cardinals. When you think about St. Louis, you think about John Mozeliak. I mean, he has been the head of the baseball operations for nearly 2 decades, and he's had a very impressive tenure. But as the Cardinals look to shift into this reset mode like they talked about, they're looking to bring in new leadership and some change. For so long, the Cardinals were consistently one of the National League powerhouses, but times change, and I think now the Cardinals feel like it's time to bring in a new voice. So John Mozeliak stepping down after the 2025 season was not necessarily a surprise. This is something he said he was going to do when he signed his last 2-year extension in 2023. What was more surprising to me was that the Cardinals already named Mozeliak's replacement, if you will, Chaim Bloom, the former top baseball of operations for the Boston Red Sox. He'll take over a 5-year deal. Clearly, tomorrow, the Cardinals feel like they have the right guy in Bloom to offer him that lengthy of a deal. It will be interesting to see how this year goes in this transition period. One thing that I would like to make clear, though the Cardinals have a transition plan in place and they are bringing Bloom in for 2026, John Mozeliak will be in charge of the roster decisions and the overall baseball operations status quo for 2025.
Before the press conference, Katie, you wrote an article about the state of the Cardinals player development model. I want to read you a quote that you got from someone within the organization. "We're in trouble. This is not easily fixable within the next year or year after. This is going to take some time." How have the Cardinals lost their way in a category that they were known for years ago?
So the big question is, why are the Cardinals embracing a reset period, if you will? For so long, St. Louis has prided itself in always fielding a competitive club, trying to make playoff appearances, and ultimately advancing to the World Series. But for years now, there have been concerns about player development and the resources, whether that's staffing or technology, being put into place. And ultimately what happened was the Cardinals fell behind. And this was particularly glaring because, like you said, the Cardinals were the industry standard in player development just 10 years ago. And what happened was the industry caught up to them. St. Louis did such a good job in player development and ultimately setting the standard of what that should look like, that more and more organizations started putting more and more resources into it, and ultimately the Cardinals fell behind. I thought Chaim Bloom said it well during the press conference on Monday when he said this is an arms race. If you rest on your laurels, you're going to get caught. That is what happened to the Cardinals. And while it certainly is not ideal for anyone in St. Louis to put winning on the back burner at the major league level, it's what this organization feels is best so the Cardinals can get back on their feet. You've heard it from multiple leaders in that organization. The St. Louis Cardinals are at their best when they are continuously growing homegrown talent. They haven't been able to do that as consistently. They'd like to fix it.
And Mozeliak even touched on it. While they don't have to decrease the major league payroll, we might see some of that shift as they focus more on that player development model and shoring that up in the years to come. So more of a long-term plan. Now, it was clear consistent hitting was a problem this season, so the Cardinals have decided not to ask hitting coach Turner Ward to return. Of course, his contract did end after this season. Why did the Cardinals make that move? Why was it important? And what is still in place for the 2025 season?
Ultimately, tomorrow it comes down to performance. The Cardinals were one of the worst teams in baseball in multiple offensive categories, especially with runners in scoring position. You and I talked about it all year long. And when the Cardinals ended the 2024 season, they were last in the National League with runners in scoring position in average, slugging, on-base percentage, and OPS, home runs, and RBI. So across the board, the Cardinals were not good at producing with runners in scoring position. Turner Ward has been with the organization for 3 years, the hitting coach for 2 years. Since his contract was up, it seemed like the Cardinals felt like it was the right time to make a change. They are bringing back assistant hitting coach Brandon Allen and game planning coach Packy Elkins, so they're going to look for a new leader, if you will, for the hitting department, but keep the majority of the guys in place. Also, first base coach Stubby Clapp, a fan favorite, will return as well. His contract was also up at the end of the season. Ollie Marmol, he's back in 2025. Daniel Descalso, the bench coach, and pitching coach Dusty Blake as well. And then, of course, it should be a very busy offseason as we look towards a winter that doesn't really happen all that often in St. Louis, as the Cardinals won't be on the free agent market. They could be trading some players. All depends, but certainly not something that we're accustomed to here in St. Louis.
Katie, thanks so much for joining us all season long. Enjoy your off season, and we'll talk soon.
Tamar, it was great being here. Thanks so much.